Hello, and welcome to Public Policy Analysis, POLS 3313. I'm Dr. Carl Snook, and I hope you're all looking forward to a exciting and informative semester, or at least one where we all have a chance to learn a good deal and perhaps explore some area of public policy. If we don't find it super interesting, I think that we will certainly find that we have learned a good deal about something that we care a good deal about. I first became interested in public policy. I was taking a course on it, and I was kind of rebelling against this idea that politics was everything, that winning over the other side was everything. And I decided that maybe a more interesting thing to do would be to look at problems that face society and how we might be able to fix those problems. A lot of times there's broad agreement on what good would be, what fixed would be. The big differences are over how we achieve this. Certainly, we hope to make as many people as possible enjoy or have a better life, while still ensuring that some people have at least a decent life, a satisfactory life. And everybody has a different trade-off, right? I learned along the way that sometimes there's trade-offs because there's more that people want than what can be achieved at any given moment. It's by the productive capacity of a society. Now, maximizing that productive capacity and finding ways to make sure that initial distributions or even subsequent distributions work in the favor of as many people as possible is a legitimate task. We'll talk about this later in the semester. It's called welfare economics. But then also somewhere along the way, I realized that there are differences and that people have differences on how to solve problems, not just from the standpoint of, well, which alternative should we select, but what end state do we really desire? And so there will be an element of political feasibility. There will be an element of looking at what it seems people want at any given moment in time, right? If you take this class in 2 years, it's likely that the possibilities, the feasible political outcomes will be different than what we see here, right? As we begin this class, we see a deadlocked House of Representatives, a closely divided U.S. Senate, a president ostensibly of the same party as controls the Senate, but maybe nobody controls the House of Representatives. And so what are we trying to discover? What are we trying to find out? Well, in this moment of potential gridlock, what are some solutions that we can find? And we're going to apply the tools of public policy analysis to an area of interest to us. You're going to select from a list of policies that are available. I'm sorry, maybe I don't know 35 different things. So what I did was I came up with 24 policies that I either have a good bit of knowledge about or that I'm willing to learn a good bit about, but also that are narrow enough. Remember, if you're going to write a 12-page paper, nobody really wants to read a 12-page summary of a 4,000-page law, right? We're looking for depth. We're looking for showing understanding. So we're going to try to narrow our policies so much that you can really give a fair accounting of what's going on in the dozen or so pages that you're going to have to write your paper. Well, so let's take a moment and let's go over what's going to be in the syllabus. Module 1 is all about getting started. And so if we look at what we need to do to get started, probably the first thing to do is to look at the syllabus, right? To look at the plan. When you buy a car, you should look at the owner's manual. When you look at when you download software, you should try to figure out how it works. And the software download for this class is largely explained in the syllabus. So I think that for most of you, when we teach this class, quite often in the spring or the summer, we see a large number of students who are not on campus at Kennesaw State University. And as such, I've decided that maybe the best way for us to communicate is either through Teams, by email, or even telephone. Email will probably be your first line of contact, right? You contact me and you say, Dr. Snook, we have, I'd like to be able to talk to you, or I have a question. You might ask a question, I might be able to answer it. But if you feel like you need to talk to me, I'm going to make myself available to have meetings on Teams or by telephone, whichever serves your purposes. I saw where the bookstore hadn't ordered the Eugene Bardock and Eric Patushnik a book, A Practical Guide to Policy Analysis. That might be an advantage for you. Look on the website. Look at the look at the information for that book. One thing I do know is that you should be able to find that book much cheaper than the library. I'm sorry, than the bookstore offers it. I saw somewhere where it was like $8.77. So. So try to do that. You won't need it for several weeks. So if you try ordering it online, it should be there for you. I did add it to the list of required books. They fixed for me that they didn't have it in, but they are ordering it. What that might do for you is that if you have some sort of scholarship or financial assistance, that it might make it a little bit easier to get that book now. The other textbook, Deborah Stone, Policy Paradox, the third edition is what you're looking for. I think that's a very good book. We're going to be doing a book report on it. You're going to have an opportunity to look at the things that interest you the most about the book. And this semester, I'm going to encourage everyone to sort of read beyond the book reviews that you can find online, and to find things that really work well with the research you're otherwise doing. But the next module, Module 2, I'm going to spend some time actually getting you launched into working on the Stone book. We will have some opportunity to talk about what's in the Stone book, but it's also the kind of book that, more than going chapter to chapter and reviewing, the overall feel of what she's trying to accomplish and explain in the policy paradox is probably in your best interest to think large scale rather than to remember key terms and expect a test. Instead, we're going to have a book report. And as I'm going to probably say to you 20, 30, 50 times this semester, whenever you have a written assignment in a college course, it really is an essay exam in disguise. If I say book report, I'm asking you to tell me the things that you would have learned if I would have, gone over the slides. Except you have more freedom. When you do your final paper, I'm going to evaluate, at least in part, whether it's obvious you've learned some of the material of the course. I'm not especially interested in whether you can find somebody to write a really good book report for you. I'm not interested in whether there's some computer software that is going to make the perfect research for your policy analysis. Because if you do that, you will have already missed the boat because you won't have learned the material. And so elements of what you're supposed to know and understand will need to find their way into both of those major assignments. There will be several other readings and videos for you to watch that are going to be included on the D2L page, so you should be able to access them online. And if you can't access them through the D2L page, I'll warn you, and then you should be able to get them at the library through the digital version of it in the library. So, and again, I said in the library as though this was 1988 when I was in college. What I mean is you'll sit at your computer at home and you'll use the library website to find what you need. So let's talk a little bit about the assignments in this course. So right off the bat, you're going to have a personal introduction to write. It's worth 30 points, so don't not do it. But at the same time, if you do it, you'll probably get 30 points. You don't have to tell me anything that's top secret. You don't have to reveal private matters in your life. If you look at the prompt, it's mostly asking, what interests you, what policies interest you. If you want to tell me that, you have, 3 cats and 2 children, and you hope someday to be the manager of a McDonald's, fine. That'll help everybody in the classroom get to know you and help create a learning community. But also, if those are your dreams and you're embarrassed by them, or you don't want to be judged by them, or you just figure it's none of our business, you also don't have to tell that. So be as open or as closed as you wish. But I need to get you writing, and what do you already know the most about, about yourself? And you probably know what you've taken in school that's interested you so far, and you probably know what areas related to government and politics and problems in society that you care about. We will also have, basically every 2 weeks or so, 5 reaction papers that are each worth 10 points. Now, to me, a reaction paper is a paper where you read something or you watch a video, and in most cases they will be videos that you'll watch, and you will write 1 page of summary and 1 page of how it affected you, what you think about it. I think a term you hear people say a lot is you're going to riff on it. You're going to work with it and give some opinions related to it. Sort of, where is your mind having had to deal with reading that or listening to that video? So first you're just going to summarize it for me, and then you're going to tell me what it means to you. Most cases, if you're on topic and you show in the summary that you understood it, and then you actually engage the topic somewhat in the second page, you'll be fine. You'll get 10 out of 10 points. I would say in general, there's 3 kind of students with the reaction papers, right? The ones who never have a problem and just get 10s right across. Ones who mess up once, and then after I explain what they did wrong, they subsequently get them all right. And then the students who are most hurt by the reaction papers, which is to say students who don't diligently keep up with the assignments and don't turn them in. And that's about the only way that the reaction papers won't be a plus to your grade at the end. So, keep up and look at the materials, and you should be fine with that. Then in a couple weeks, we're going to have what I call the policy question assignment. I've told you that my view of policy analysis is that you look at policy problems, that too many people start with a solution and then look for a problem. The classic story is that no matter what the problem is in society, if there's a recession, if the economy's going well, the Republicans will come to you and say, we need a tax cut. If there's a budget deficit, the Republicans say you need a tax cut. If there is a budget surplus, the Republicans say we can't keep all this money, and they want a tax cut. And so, that's a solution looking for a problem. It might be a good solution, but I'm always skeptical when somebody says, well, what we really need to do is switch to electric fuels. And I was like, I I wanted you to tell me what the best way it is to clear the roads. Solar power is not the best way to clear the roads during a snowstorm, right? Because there's not very much solar power at that moment. So anyway, I kid, I suppose you'd say. Seriously, though, don't start with a solution and look for a problem. Look at the problem and then evaluate some potential solutions that are being offered by several different groups. Select the one that's the best. Figure out whether it's politically feasible, and if it is, propose that as your solution. If you start with the solution, then if you have a hammer, every problem's a nail. I want you to first determine whether there's a nail. It might be a thumbtack. All right, so we will have a midterm exam, and then a new assignment that I haven't really worked with before. I've had it be included in the final paper in the past, but I was thinking it was making the final paper a little bit too determinative of the grade. I used to have the final paper be 100 out of 250 points, and now I have it 100 out of 400 points because I think that intermediate steps need to be given a little more credit. But we're doing a political feasibility paper. So we're at a moment in time, and if you're proposing a policy that's going to affect the state of Georgia, the city of Kennesaw, your own hometown, your own home state, or the United States, then you have to propose a policy that could possibly succeed, right? If you're looking at a policy that, despite the fact of the Democrats controlling Congress and the presidency for 2 years, has never been acted on, well, that's probably not going to pass now. If you're looking at something that's at the heart of the Republican agenda in Washington, it's probably not going to pass right now. If you don't agree with the statement I just made, part of your paper is going to be to explain how exactly, in the next 2 years or so, the policy that you advocate, without major changes in politics in the United States, is going to be adopted. It's not a solution if no one takes it up, right? The same way, if something isn't technologically feasible, you can't do it, right? I mean, yes, it would probably be a really good idea to look for, fuels to, for our society on the planet Mars. Maybe we set up big solar panels on Mars, right? And if you think that would work, well, you have to explain to me how it will. It doesn't, right? It takes more energy to get there than anything you'd be able to bring back. So anyway, I mean, it's why North America was settled. They were looking for gold. Gold was something that might have been cheaper to find here and bring back than the cost of the trip, but not so much. Not so much solar power on Mars right now. Anyway, so when you're doing this paper, you're going to look at whether the policy is actually feasible, and if technology or politics gets in the way, then it's just not something that you're not going to be able to select that alternative. We're not dreaming, right? Then we have the Stone Book report. You're going to read the entire Stone Book, and you're going to write 6 or 7 pages on, some important aspects. You could think of it as a reaction paper to a long book. And we'll talk, like I said, it has its whole entire module coming up next. And then we're going to have the policy analysis paper. And that's kind of the finishing touch. You're going to have a policy that you've selected. It has to be the policy you selected in the policy question assignment. You're going to have, we're going to have taught you all sorts of ways that you can work through a policy and solve it. And then you're going to write it up, and we're going to show you how best to write up a policy analysis paper so that you can maximize your grade and you can learn as much as possible. I would think of it as a failure in this course if you do well but you learn nothing. I would think of it as a failure in this course if you don't get the grade that you feel you deserve, because I should communicate with you exactly what you need to accomplish. And then finally, there will be a grade, about 10% of your grade will be course engagement. So this isn't a course for taking a week off here, a week off there. This is a regular course. It's online. I don't care if you're in, Jamaica or Bimini or, Minnesota this semester. You're going to want to keep checking in on the course, and the rules for how often you have to do that is more than once a week. And you have to have all the assignments turned in. That's my measure of what engagement is, right? You do the work and you do the work and you turn in the assignments, and then you're engaged. So, online, we don't take attendance exactly, but you have to interact with the course regularly. So I'm not looking forward to late assignments. If you turn in a late assignment, the syllabus talks about this, but you're going to lose points right away, and more points each additionally. If something comes up, right, things come up. My wife had an assignment due one time when she was in college, and she fell and she broke her elbow. And so she wasn't able to go to school, but she wasn't my wife at the time. She was my fiance, and she called me on the phone, and I drove her to the school, and she turned in the paper. Maybe that's not the minimum standard, but if something's going to come up that's going to get in the way of you managing the class in a typical way, then we're going to have to work out a plan, and we're going to have to keep to the plan. We can't, it can't be 3 weeks later you say, oh, I broke my elbow and that's why I haven't seen anything from you. It should be a little bit more like after you've been to the doctor and you have your arm all wrapped up, and you sit down and you one-handedly type an email that says, I didn't get this in because I broke my elbow. I'll have it in tomorrow, or I'll have it in sometime that we agree to. So the syllabus has a lot of material on student support and financial aid and contacting the registrar and all of that. So I encourage you to read that. I encourage you to read my note on communication, how I want us to be able to communicate well this semester. And then the final page of the syllabus, and probably the most important, is the course outline. And the course outline looks at each of the modules. There's 9 modules. Look a little bit at policy theory. It should be helpful to you if you have taken the public policy course, but we're looking a little bit more at public policy analysis theory, more than we're looking at policy theory, although we will be looking at things like Kingdon's 3 streams model and Baumgartner and Jones's punctuated equilibrium model that I hope you've been introduced to if you've taken other classes. And if you haven't, all the material that it's right there for you and will help you out. I think it could be a lot of fun. I enjoy this class because I enjoy seeing different students, different semesters tackling important problems and kind of gaining some confidence in their ability to analyze a policy problem and to come up with a solution. I don't kid myself that you're not predisposed to a solution, but what you're really learning to do is to make arguments in favor of your policy alternatives that you desire, and in such a way that the people who make these decisions and the people in government who have to defend these decisions will understand. You're kind of learning the jargon, you're kind of learning the language of policy analysis, so that you can someday be a practitioner of the craft, as we might say. So each of these modules is going to have an introduction, many of them not this long, and I hope that you take advantage of this. Every semester there's a couple students who ask me a question at the end, and it turns out that they didn't take advantage of looking at the videos, and they come to regret that. Also, make sure that there'll be slides for most of the policy, for most of the modules. Try to watch the slides. There's a voiceover on some of them. What I've been trying to do is convert all these over to the YouTube, so that we can caption them for you. But if you have a concern with accessibility, please contact me. I'd like to have the opportunity to work with you to make sure that you can benefit from the class as much as anybody. All right, so I wish you well, and in my time, Module 2 will begin very soon. In your time, you should make sure that you work through Module 1 during the week that is designed for you to do so, and be ready to attack Module 2 later.